Hey, folks, welcome back to my podcast. This is Isla C. Welcome to Diaries of a Divine Feminine. And today I want to talk about a sensitive topic. This one is related to having a mother, a parent that you love dearly, but is extremely codependent, extremely needy, extremely manipulative, and drains you in the way an energy vampire would drain you and affect you adversely, your mental health, your emotional health. So I wanted to address this because it has been, for me, a challenge since I was a child. And it's something that I'm still coping with. And I'm grateful that I found some techniques that have helped me manage the situation with my mom. So I want to give you guys a little bit of backdrop on what the dynamic is like between myself and my mother. My mom is somebody that if you met her, you would adore her. She's so sweet. She has a Betty Crocker type of persona. She works at a school and everybody adores her. And nobody would guess that she has this aspect to her personality, which is so toxic and so dark, right? Nobody sees behind the veil except for her children and her siblings and the people that are very, very close to her. And so her facade is very sweet, very kind, very pleasant, very personable. And since I was a child, I remember my mom having an extreme sensitivity to criticism, an extreme sensitivity to not being favored or not being praised or being overlooked in favor of, for example, one of her sisters. She's extremely sensitive to, like her self-esteem is extremely fragile. And she's also very volatile. So she was married to my dad for about almost 20 years. They would have very violent outbursts. She would go into very intense victim mode and but also be very, very staunch in her attack mode as well. So she would launch the most vile and dark and just histrionic type of accusations, even say things that weren't true just to hurt, just to emotionally harm, just to scar in a way, She is not cautious with her words. She's very reckless with her words. She feels entitled to say very hurtful and scarring things when she feels that her self-esteem has been assaulted. And even if it hasn't been, for example, even if you're in your boundary or you're making a decision that's in your best interest, she could potentially interpret that as being an assault on her self-esteem because, of course, her persona or the type of person that she is highly dependent, highly codependent, highly needy. And if you're not believing her victim story, if you're not buying into it, if you dismiss it, if she can't manipulate you with it. She starts hauling these types of accusations. You guys would know from previous podcasts that recently I've moved to Spain. I've moved to Europe, and I'm from the Caribbean. And one of the reasons that I have experienced tremendous peace of mind is because of the distance and is because of my ability to safeguard myself emotionally and mentally from my mother. And it's one of the major factors that went into this decision. So I would recommend to anybody who is experiencing a similar type of dynamic with a parent to figure out, as a first strategy, how to create boundaries, strong boundaries. And I will tell you from personal experience, when you attempt to create boundaries with a parent that is emotionally abusive or potentially narcissistic, that they will be offended by them. They will be critical of your boundaries. They will guilt you for your boundaries. They will accuse you of not loving them and not caring for them, and accuse you of being probably, an awful child and an unloving child, and accuse you of not being grateful for everything that they've done for you. All of that. They can potentially throw, the entire baby in the bathwater at you in order to get your attention and in order to get you back into their grasp and their grips of control. So you have to be mindful of this when you're putting up these boundaries. But nevertheless, it is vital to create boundaries because you have to protect your own mental health. You have to protect your sanity. And I will tell you from personal experience, in my earlier years, when I lived under the same roof as my mom, there were times when my mom drove me to a very dark point, a point of, we would get into physical fights. This is when I was much younger. We would get into verbal arguments where I would say things that just were so out of character for me. And I decided to move out, I think around the age of 24 or so, just to be able to put distance between myself and my mother. And it was one of the best decisions I've made, even though it was a little bit expensive for me being a young professional at the time, but it was necessary. So figure out as a first strategy how to create boundaries. Communicate with them always in a calm, assertive way. Because it's possible that they could accuse you of, disrespect and rudeness and anger and whatever. And whatever it is that they do, which could be very volatile, they can project that at you. So, you want to be calm. You want to make sure that you're respectful. You want to make sure that you're assertive in protecting yourself. As a second strategy, too, practice self-care. Make sure that your life does not revolve around the approval of this parent. And if you're not there yet, get there. That will require possibly therapy, possibly energy healing, possibly a lot of inner work, spiritual work to heal the trauma of having a parent like that, heal your inner child, do a great deal of forgiveness work, and move in a direction toward wholeness. That is essential, because if you don't get there, your parent will know how to pull your strings like a puppet master would, right? And also, you would be attracting other people into your life that can also be capable of pulling those same strings. So you want to heal that. You want to heal that wound. You want to heal that void. You want to heal the damage done from somebody enmeshing themselves with your sense of being, pulling on you, manipulating you, accusing you, and damaging your self-worth in a way, making you believe things that aren't true. And especially at a younger age where we're tender and very vulnerable and impressionable to the opinions and the desires of our parents, we have to heal that, right? And come into our own sense of understanding of who we are, what our identity is, what it means for us to be whole individuals, and what it means for us to have a sense of purpose and to feel vitality in our beingness, right? And so that is my second advice, to practice self-care and healing. And then my third advice would be, do not allow them to make you feel guilty. Do not allow them, and this goes back to the boundaries, and it goes back to the self-care. Don't get sucked into them guilt tripping you into, when you do put up those boundaries and they try to pull at your boundaries, you maintain them, and you don't allow yourself to ever again feel guilty or be manipulated, that you come into a sense of awareness of how they affect you. And you can still love them, and you can still love them from a distance, but you have to recognize the effect that they can have on you, and to make sure that their capability of manipulating you stops. So those are my 3 tips for coping with a parent, with a mother, in particular, in my context, who is an energy vampire. I love my mother dearly, but I have learned that it is better for me to love my mother from a distance. And even when she accuses me of not loving her, not caring for her, I know within myself that I do, and that I've done my best. And there's a sense of peace that comes with that. And that's what I hope that you can also experience and are experiencing. And so let me know in the comments if you can relate, if you have experiences like this with having a difficult mother, a challenging parent, and what you've done to manage the situation. And feel free to, and I would be most delighted if you would like this content to encourage me, and to subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. And I look forward to hearing from you in the comments to see if this resonates with you, if you share experiences like this, and what techniques have you used to manage a difficult mother and to bring healing and balance and self-care to your life. Thank you so much for listening.